their culture, I feel like it really helps you. With interpreting, you have to be able to communicate, like I said earlier, effectively, or pretty much word for word, what it is that each party is saying. But at the same time, if you understand their culture and where they come from, and et cetera, I feel like you understand the plight of the patient or what it is that they're trying to express. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Anyone else wants to add to that?
Well, for me, I think that my main claim is that culture is political. You cannot think about culture without thinking in a political way about culture, because I'm working with representations and how Mexicans are represented on the media, how Latin Americans can be represented in Hollywood. Tyler gave an excellent presentation about that in my class. So for me, I cannot break the tie between the political and the cultural. And I'm not speaking about political in terms of making decisions in the president's house or voting, as we know how the traditional role model of democracy and liberalism demands this kind of citizen participation. I'm thinking more about culture by producing knowledge. And what we need to somehow realize is that Hispanic communities in South Carolina and in Colombia are producing a different kind of knowledge, a different kind of sensitivity, a different kind of way of living. So from that perspective, we need to give this symbolic capital to that kind of knowledge, which most of the time is not recognized by the authorities. It's not recognized by other people who live in Colombia. Most of the time, the idea or the social perception of the immigrants in South Carolina and in other regions of the United States, it's the stereotype of the criminal. So we don't want that. We have to work with representations, we have to work with them, and we have to be very careful the way we read them, we understand them, and we transmit them, because most of you are going to be working with other people for your future life. You're going to be educators, you're going to be teachers, you're going to be professionals, you're going to be working with other social networks. So you have to be very, very careful the way you present the culture, and also try to give culture a symbolic capital. So that's why I'm always very obsessed in my class with be careful of representing differences, because most of the time we are not aware that we're committing and repeating the same stereotype.
In my understanding, I think that, for example, a cultural example of they have said, I cannot learn English if I don't understand the American culture. It's really hard to do it, because I'm only learning words, I'm learning grammar, but I don't know when to use it, how to use it, how to stress the words, etc. It's not the same speaking English here than speaking English in England, New Zealand, Australia. It's really completely different, because culture also is different. So in the opposite side, to speak really well Spanish, you got to understand also different the cultural differences among different countries in Latin America, because it's not the same to talk Spanish with an Argentinian. Maybe you know the words, but the same word can mean something completely different for the people. Sometimes for me it's really hard to speak Spanish with Caribbean people, for example. So I barely understand, I don't know, some people from Venezuela and other countries. So I really encourage you that culture and language go together, always. And a good for example, activity that you can do is watching movies from different countries. For example, watching a movie from an Argentinian movie, a Chilean movie, a Mexican movie, and watch the difference. And use Spanish subtitles, of course. And you can use, you can learn the differences among culture in a really direct way. But culture is always together.
And again, what Raul is mentioning is very important, because we do give cultural competency trainings, and we have this set of reference that we tell you, Hispanics are supposed to be like this, and then we fall in what you were saying, like, well, we're all different. It's like, well, you speak English, and people from Scotland speak English, and people from England speak English. We're not the same. But for some reason, we were all like put together into this big pile, and like everybody is the same. All Hispanics are like this. So you need to learn something like that. A lot of times, just cultural competency can get you a long way, as long as you don't make the mistake that Raul is mentioned. Like don't just promote the same stereotype. Like, well, they are really hard workers, but they don't speak English, or they are this, but they are not that, or they are not this, or they well, because everybody's different, or we are just individuals. And because we speak Spanish, that doesn't mean that we are the same. I mean, we are all very different right here. And we're both Mexicans, but we're not the same. And we meet somewhere else, we might not even be friends. But in here, because we're just a little bit, we tend to group together and work together. But as long as you understand, like, well, yes, learn cultural competency, but don't fall into the trap that everybody's just the same just because it's Hispanic, then you should be okay.